Google released its ChatGPT competitor this week, while Microsoft continued to add more AI functions to Bing, all while others called for more AI regulation. In the meantime, big tech layoffs continue at both Meta and Amazon, causing more concern about the overall tech economy. We'll jump into these stories and other tech news on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Shaw. Welcome back to Today in Tech. Joining me to discuss a bunch of news items from the week is our old pal Chris from Behind the Computer. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Having a good week?
It's not that bad.
Not bad. Okay. Again, the two big stories for me this week were a lot of stuff going on around the AI, ChatGPT, generative AI. It keeps generating more and more stories.
The gift that keeps on giving.
It really is. It's fascinating to just kind of try it out and see what happens. So remember when Google announced Bard a few weeks ago, and they had that big press announcement, and then someone saw that there was an error in one of their demonstrations. Do you remember that? Like they said something about the Hubble Space Telescope that wasn't true in the prompt and response.
I actually must have missed that.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a big deal, and then Google went like radio silent. So then you didn't hear anything about it.
Huh.
So they finally, and then there were a couple of kind of bubbling up stories that people were pissed off that happened, and you rushed it, and Google was like, no, we're not responding to ChatGPT and Microsoft, but in reality they were. So this week, Google announced Bard AI is ready for consumption. Like it's now officially launched, and so this came out on Monday, and basically same kind of thing. Like it's generative AI. You type in a prompt, it gives you an answer. You have a more conversational AI. It's not a search engine. It's just sort of
Is this the one that has feelings? Or was that?
No, I don't think. Like maybe the early version. Is this the one? The earlier version may have like that. There was that Google engineer who thought that it had reached consciousness.
Oh yeah,
and then he got fired. Like they're like, no, it doesn't. So what was interesting about this is that there was still a wait list to get into Bard, and so. Me being I'm a nobody, but I do use a lot of Google products, so maybe I did get pushed up to the list. Remember when Microsoft was like, you have to do this, and this in order to get on the wait or to jump ahead in the wait list?
Yeah.
So with Google to get into Bard, I just had to push a button and said, hey, let me know when I'm off the wait list, and then I think I was already signed in under Google anyway. So within like 2 days, I was granted access. So it feels like they're opening it up to more people faster than what Microsoft did. And I don't have to download Google Chrome or any other special Google equipment.
It's just baked right in.
To be honest, I'm using that anyway.
Yeah.
So I think Google realizes, most people are using Chrome anyway, so we're not going to force them to use a browser. Like with Bing, I have to use that Microsoft Edge browser to use it, and then I have to sign in under my Microsoft account. Now, maybe it's just because I already have the Google account automatically signing in. So maybe that's, if I wasn't, maybe I would have to if I was going to use it. So right. I've been playing around with it a little bit, and it just feels like, again, you're talking to a generative AI type of thing. I'm not trying to trick it. I'm just trying to say, like, what can it do? What can it do? So it's cool. You can have conversations with it and then see if you can create a hallucination. And so far, I haven't been able to. So, but there are warning signs all over it that say, like, okay, remember, guys, this is just an experiment. If something racist pops out, it's not our fault. Type of
or
thing.
If it hurts your feelings.
Or if it hurts your feelings, it has not.
It apologizes ahead of time.
Yeah, the AI has not asked me out on a date yet, and it has not tried to like steal my wife or anything like that. Like some of the stuff from ChatGPT and Bing did initially. I think that they've fixed that.
Is it any different from ChatGPT, or is it pretty similar?
It feels the same. I asked it similar questions that I've asked ChatGPT, like come up with some goofy names for my D&D character, or write a poem and things like that. I haven't really dug into the whole poem creation stuff yet.
Yeah.
I will at some point. I just haven't had a lot of time.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's. I mean, again, I don't know anything about the back end stuff or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's pulling from the same kind of like database.
I mean? I think that they all have their own little training set that's based on all of the scraping of the internet, and whether or not it's that. I mean, that's how all of these training models
there's only
working.
one internet, right?
Right, but it depends on what you use the internet for, or it depends on what parts of the internet you are scraping from. I think the chatbot that Microsoft did years ago, remember there was a lot of like racist things that was saying because they were using social media posts as part of the data set. And as we know, when you go onto social media and start scraping things from Twitter or, other sorts of, forums and bad sites that allow that kind of stuff, of course it's going to think that that's normal. And so if you delete those from your training set, you might not be as, biased as some of these things that we're ending up. So I think they're trying to be more careful about it. But we'll see, because there's a couple of other stories that came out this week too. There was pop up the one that says the genie escapes. So this is Stanford released something called Alpaca, which is a low-cost and open-source language model that was built atop a Meta Llama model. Now, the reason, so Alpaca Llama, get it? It's like Llama stands for like large language model or machine. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but so their Alpaca is a 7 billion parameter variant of Meta's Llama, fine-tuned with 52,000 instructions generated by GPT 3.5. They claim that basically it performs comparably to OpenAI, but basically it costs less than $600 to sort of initiate this. So the cost of generating a training set for this AI is now, the reason that OpenAI didn't have a lot of competitors before is because you have to spend a lot of money for these training sets, for this data, all of this data. That's why you've got a lot of money that's thrown at this. But now Stanford basically is like, oh, you can do this for about $600. That's going to like democratize this whole thing like completely. You're going to start seeing, if people start using this and spending less money, then you're going to start seeing you don't have to rely on OpenAI as much for this sort of generative AI.
Right. So like exactly how do they do it? Do they just like find a way to copy?
If you dig into it, you get into like things that are beyond my pay grade.
Yeah.
In terms of how they were able to do it. It's all on that article. Like there's a bunch of flowcharts that you're seeing about how they were able to do it.
I think this kind of explains it.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, of course it's easier. Oh, there's a giant.
It's a nice flow chart. Look at this. Alpacas up top, and then it goes to. Okay. So they just found a way. They found a way.
Yes, because people at universities like Stanford are very smart, and people that aren't host YouTube channel hosts like me. They host podcasts where they talk about this kind of stuff. I just do think that's going to be an interesting approach in terms of more companies now coming out with generative AI models that aren't necessarily based on the OpenAI one.
Well, it also begs the question of regulation. Like now, does this tech, whatever behind it, does it need to be licensed? Should it be licensed by? I mean,
there was another story that I don't think we popped up, but it was the head of OpenAI. His name, the CEO, is Sam Altman. He actually did an interview with CNBC, and he was basically saying that he's a little bit scared of kind of AI and all of this new AI technology, and he's concerned about potential disinformation and authoritarian control of AI technology, even though AI is going to transform the economy, labor, and education. So the head of all of this is saying that he's a little bit concerned about this.
Well, so, I mean, is what he's trying to say is like he's scared of whoever gets a hold of who can control it.
And he's doing it from the sense of an authoritarian government like China or something like that. For example, this is a quote from him, quote, "We do worry a lot about authoritarian governments developing this. Overseas governments have already begun to bring competing AI technology to market." And that was sort of a reference to Chinese tech company Baidu.
Right.
That also held a release event for its AI, which is calling itself ErnieBot. But in that press release, they didn't actually have ErnieBot doing a demonstration. So I think that they were trying to avoid any sort of embarrassment if it was bad information or wrong information.
Yeah. Years before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin said, "Whoever becomes the leader in AI technology will be the rule of the world."
Yes.
I mean,
now I think
I can kind of believe that
when Putin when he said said that, he was mentioning more about AI being used in warfare and decision making in terms of AIs controlling where troops move or where the drone strikes happen and things like that. So more so than just like having something write a poem. I think, quotes like that get thrown around talking about general artificial intelligence or general machine learning types of tools. So, and I don't think Sam Altman is necessarily worried about competitors like Google or some of these other. I think he is concerned about the government control over what information gets disseminated.
I mean, the way I see it is like everyone is going to have their own version of ChatGPT. Everyone's going to have their own version.
They're not going to call it ChatGPT.
Right.
They'll call it. They'll have their own AI, and you'll have competing AIs.
Yeah, they'll call it something else, but I think that's the big concern is like having a government control over it, right?
And I think what concerns him is that because these companies probably won't be upfront about how much data sets they have and where they've trained their data and like where are you getting all this information? How is it making these decisions? So maybe a $50 AI that was developed is going to spit out information that is just not what the information you'd be looking for from something that's been developed on a better.
Right. And then on top of that, on top of these AI models, right, then you have the deep fakes.
Yes.
So you combine this with that, and then what do you got? And I think that's what he's getting at. Like, it's not just, the chat bot itself, the chat AI itself. It's take that, combine it with deepfake tech, and then mix it all together. Boom. You have your chat GPT, whatever, as kind of like the AI engine inside. Then you have kind of like the deepfake tech that's kind of masking it. And then there you go.
Remember when we were talking a few weeks ago about there was concerns of political deep fakery going to go on? Well, it happened this week.
Yeah, it already happened.
There was a bunch of people that are anticipating the arrest of the former president of in New York for this whatever they're going to do or not do, this grand jury. But somebody went on an AI and created images of Trump being arrested. I could tell that these were fake. Obviously, I mean, because again, you look at some of the stuff that's being produced by some of these AI art generators. But what they did was they posted these images up on Twitter, pretended they were real, and a lot of people, I think, started to believe that he had actually been arrested. But again, because it's on Twitter, so these are not real. We're going to say that,
these aren't real.
These aren't real.
But they're rather convincing.
Yeah, and even in the Twitter posts, is like making pictures of Trump getting arrested while waiting for Trump's arrest. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, you can tell that it's like can you tell that that's fake?
Well, so here's the thing, and this
when you look at that,
this is the issue with images and video being displayed on the internet is you're going to have compression, right? So the thing with compression is it can kind of blur the lines within the finer details. So looking at this, right, it's pretty convincing. It's very hard to tell where, because obviously this has been masked. Yeah,
I think
it's been masked over.
If you look at the cop on the right there, on the upper right,
this guy.
Yeah, the guy. There's something that weird looking with his hand there.
Yeah.
And then the his helmet there, or his hat, that looks a little weird too. And it doesn't look like that Trump's face there would be in the correct position.
It's a little bit too clean.
And then see the hands there, that they didn't do a great job with the hands. It looks, do they even have the right number of fingers?
I don't know. That's the thing. I wonder if if
that one thing is not a thumb, and then there's another glove in the back. So there are little parts where you can tell that it's not real.
Right.
But again, anybody actually claiming that they are, obviously this guy does not claim that these are real. But what if he didn't? What if he said, "Hey, I just saw this," or "This is this is the type of misinformation that people are going to be like." Share and this is only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse.
Yeah,
easily.
So I think that again, this is the gift that keeps on giving, because we're just going to see more and more. Like Microsoft, for example, they added stuff from OpenAI's DALL-E. We've talked about DALL-E before, where you type in a prompt and it generates sort of some AI artwork.
Right.
So they've now added that to Bing, and it's a lot easier now to get the images generated than it was before, where you had to sign into DALL-E's website. And
so it's a lot quicker.
It's a lot quicker. Yeah. They give
it's learning. It's becoming self-aware already.
They give you 20. They give you 25 credits. I've done I don't want to waste my credits because I want to come up with some interesting artwork. There was one that and I'm not going to show you this, but I have a photo when I was younger. I was a mascot for my local newspaper, and it was an alligator, and so I did have it at. So there's a photo of me where I'm in the alligator costume, and a friend of mine was next to me, and she gave the alligator a kiss on the cheek, like, just kind of, and then someone took our picture. Okay. So when I typed in, and Lori, if you're watching this, it's you. So if I typed in ChatGPT or the Bing, I said, draw me a picture of an alligator mascot at a baseball game, getting a kiss from a female fan, and
pulled up your picture.
No, it blocked it because I used the word kissing.
Oh, there you go.
So it thought that the word kissing was inappropriate. I was like, okay, all right, now we're going a little bit overboard. But again, I'm sort of glad that filter was there. So now it was then, I think I did one of the alligator mascot posing with a female baseball fan. And the images that came up with were pretty impressive. Like they were, you could tell you were at a baseball game. It was an alligator mascot. They all had different kind of colors. The different fans had different poses. But like that, the artwork stuff just fascinates me and then terrifies me at the same time. But now it's in Bing, so now it's a lot easier. And so I was trying to get it before the show. I was trying to get it to draw a picture of me because my information on the internet about me now, there should be more details about Keith Shaw as host of Today in Tech, more so than what DALL-E did. But it still didn't know who I was. I tried to have it draw a picture of me in a fedora and sunglasses, and it just gave me some generic drawings of like a radio host with a microphone, with a fedora and sunglasses. So it did not necessarily capture my awesome features.
Your likeness.
Someday it will, but not today. And then AI will truly be frightening when it can do things like that. So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about all of these tech layoffs. You thought we were done with them, but this quarter is the gift that doesn't keep on giving in terms of a number of layoffs. Late last week, it was Facebook/Meta. They announced, if you want to bring this, do you have this article up? The Facebook parent Meta? You might not have it. Yeah, there it is. 10,000 more job cuts. And this is like ones that they had already announced. And so I'm wondering if it's because people watched our episode about the metaverse.
Probably not.
But I'd like to think that they did. And someone's like, oh my gosh, Keith Shaw was right. And this metaverse is going nowhere. We need to get rid of more people. So apparently there was, it's another round of job cuts. Mark Zuckerberg sent an email to the staff and basically said that they are canceling some projects, reducing hiring rates as part of what he has dubbed the quote unquote year of efficiency. It's like, oh boy. Company recruitment teams will be cut first, following by restructuring layoffs in his technology groups in late April. Mr. Zuckerberg said, basically, the company will also stop hiring for about 5,000 open positions. And again, a lot of it's because of the end of low interest rates, the longer term change of economy. I think people have finally realized that metaverse isn't going anywhere. They've taken a big hit because of Apple not allowing their Facebook to access certain user data. I think that's been a problem for Facebook for a long time. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe AI will save, Facebook/Meta/Instagram and WhatsApp. Those are the three big ones that Meta owns, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, the metaverse. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think that's going to go.
I think
that's going to go. It's going to disappear into the ether, and Mr. Zuckerberg is going to come up with something else. So they're going to come up with their own chat. AI thing maybe called, I don't know, Facebook AI or something, or I don't know. He'll create a chat bot that'll create your own family members.
Yeah, I just wish that they would show me everything that my Facebook friends actually do, and rather than these ads that come. Like every other thing is either a sponsored group that I don't want to join or some advertisement that I don't want to buy anything from.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the amount of data, right? For like first party data that Facebook has.
Oh yeah,
of all of us. All of, because we all have accounts, we all have our pictures, our images and stuff on there.
Well, did I tell you that story about how we were talking in the office about something about I was telling you that my feet hurt, and another coworker said, "Oh, well, they have these dress shoes that look like sneakers." Mm-hmm. And all he had to say was dress shoes that look like sneakers, and because I had my phone with me. The Facebook app on the phone, which apparently is always listening if you don't turn it off, like within like the next day, I started getting ads on my Facebook feed for shoes that basically look like dress shoes, sneakers that look like dress shoes.
Right.
And it was like,
right.
As soon as that happened, I'm like, I'm shutting off all of my microphone access to the Facebook app.
Yeah, no, it's pretty,
and I'm sure that all the other apps do this too. But I was like,
I think it's enabled through hardware. So you really got to go into like the hardware of your phone, your audio settings on your phone, and disable it.
Well, the Apple on the iPhone, you can basically tell all of the different apps to like not access the microphone and not access photos. You can get pretty serious about not allowing that access. The problem is that when you try to then use the app, it then pops up a window. It's like, hey, I need access to this, and this. And then it's like, well, only use it while the thing is open. And then if you keep the app open, it's still going to do it. And then you have to sort of shut the app down. But that's standard operating procedure for a lot of these things. So moving on to, again, last Friday, we had the Amazon, the Meta layoffs. Then on Monday, Amazon announced that they're going to cut 9,000 more jobs after earlier layoffs. So again, this is their second round of layoffs. Then this will actually include their profitable cloud computing and advertising businesses that Amazon does. And these are expected to extend into all aspects of its operations as technology firms continue to slash spending. So again, it's another big company. I would not be surprised to see another round of layoffs from other tech companies.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to happen. I mean, I think it's the change in the economy. I think on top of
I don't think
increased interest rates.
Yeah, the bank stuff didn't help.
Yeah, that didn't help.
From last week. And as I was tracking it, there's a website that tracks all of these company layoffs. It's called layoffs.fyi. It was started around the time of the pandemic. But they've got an interesting chart that shows up. If you want to bring up this chart.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got that.
Tech layoffs since COVID-19. Now, the numbers on the left, those little bars, that was all 2020. So first quarter of 2020, second quarter of 2020. So that would be April, May, and June. That's when a lot of companies started getting layoffs because of COVID-19. And then they stopped, and then they didn't start up again. And now you're starting to see last year, 2022, 2020, Q3, Q4, and now Q1 of 2023. The number of people laid off in Q2 2020, 60,141. This quarter alone, 152,858.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And even last quarter, there was more than the pandemic. So everyone keeps thinking that, pandemic, yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs. Since then, I mean, this is more indicative of a potential souring of the economy. Now, again, how many of these are, this says tech layoffs, so I'm assuming these are tech companies and not necessarily tech employees.
Yeah.
So a lot of these employees could be in roles that are not necessarily tech, sales, marketing, accounting, other positions, human resources, those types of positions, not necessarily programmers and engineers, but, it's still not going to be, if you thought it was only going to be a couple of months, I think that we're going to be seeing numbers like this for a while.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's gonna take some time. I mean, it's not like these companies can just go back after and rehire them.
So what'll be interesting to see is if this now extends again to not only just tech companies, but then starting to see other enterprises that did already have a bunch of layoffs. going for a second round. I don't know. I mean, do you have a feeling like, again, you and I don't own companies, but if we did, like, is it better to have sort of one big layoff, or do you stagger layoffs in smaller rounds? I don't think either helps morale, but I think I'd rather just have like a sort of like chop the foot off rather than do little tiny cuts. Yeah, that's just my gut feeling.
I'd probably do it quick.
Yeah.
But the thing is you don't want to over lay off.
Right. Cause then you'll be short. Right. And having gone through companies where they've done several rounds of layoffs, morale is never good. Morale's never good anyway.
Right.
If you're a survivor of a layoff, then you've got more work to do usually. And then you're not really, really happy. But I've also been laid off, and I wasn't very, very happy until I found another job or, found some work that was satisfying. So layoffs stink all around is basically the message here. All right, let's get into our last item that I want to talk about, and that is from the We Told You So department. There is a Gallup article that basically says time is important in the office because it can affect employee engagement and retention. Gallup has found that managers can be upskilled quickly, resulting in higher employee engagement of their teams and increased employee retention in a hybrid environment. Basically, their article is suggesting that making engagement a priority, regardless of where your employees are working, can help improve engagement and retention. And we've sort of been saying this as we've been looking at some of these issues of hybrid and remote, and a lot of offices are still empty, but then there are some companies that are forcing people back in the office. There are others that aren't. And basically this meta-analysis of more than 100,000 business units found that the units with more bonded workers achieve higher performance and lower turnover. And they basically said virtual meetings are less effective than in-person relationships.
Yeah, and I've actually read somewheres, I can't remember where exactly, but they actually found that using your screen as a form of engaging with one another is actually more draining on you than actual in-person
trying to pretend to be interested in a conversation.
Right, because your brain has to compensate for the lack of context that's in front of you.
Yeah.
You're not seeing someone in a 3D space, you're seeing someone in 2D. So your body kind of has to make up for those, lost cues that the body would make when you're like communicating, stuff like that. I can't remember exactly where I found it, but it was kind of fascinating stuff. And I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Like, here's another interesting part from this article. Gallup found that nearly all forms of social time boosted the mood, but social time through technology had thresholds. Mood dropped after about 25% of time spent socializing via technology. In-person social time had the largest impact on mood, but the total amount of time mattered less than the event itself. Exercising or eating and drinking together showed the strongest impact on mood.
Yeah.
Video conferencing had a weaker relationship to mood. Have you ever been, we've done, Zoom meetings. And we've done ones that focus on work, but then every now and then there are some Zoom meetings that you have where you just sort of have to give updates on your life or try to socialize in a Zoom setting. And again, it gets kind of tiring after the first couple of minutes. You're just like, ugh.
I mean, let's face it, communicating through Zoom and communicating in person.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
It's not.
It's you're replacing human interaction with staring at a screen. Or calling someone on the phone. That's really all it is. Calling someone on the phone and you get to see a little avatar, right? Or someone's face. It's totally different. And I think it's good that we're seeing articles like this to kind of highlight the fact that, there is something to be said about in-person interaction. And it's coming out to be more crucial than we thought.
Yeah. What I'm afraid of is that people will take this article though, and then they'll be like, they'll be like, you must do this, or you have to, they're going to start sort of mandatory sort of attendance. And I just think they have to sort of say, look, we want you to engage more in the office. I think that this article even recommended, listen, set up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That should be days that you're in the office. They understand that remote work on a Monday and a Friday is great because, again,
it's Monday and Friday.
It's Monday and Friday. There's not as much work that gets done on a Friday. So, it's okay to sort of like build that in. I just don't think that it can be an either or. You sort of have to meld all of these things, but by leaning one way or the other is not good, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
you have to allow each employee to figure out what's best for them and what's best for the company as well.
Yeah, and I think where this article is getting at is more of like the mental health aspect of work, right? And I think what it's trying to get at is, obviously working in person is going to be better on your mental health. And here's the thing, this might come off as a little radical, but I actually applaud the companies that are mandating going back to the office.
Yeah, because you and I differ a little bit on this.
I know, because I think they're trying to do good. They're trying to do good by having us come together in person and try to go back to how we were before.
Right. But I'm also of the generation that doesn't like the forced fun type of thing, and that feels like forced.
Yeah, I don't like
being told to do by anybody.
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to force fun, right? I think they're just trying to force
attendance,
in person productivity, in person work, right? I think that's what they're trying to do, because I think honestly, I mean, I don't have numbers or any facts for this, but I can just take a guess. And say that I think companies are starting to see the negative impact of working from home.
Yeah. Okay. So go to that. You still have that article up?
Yeah.
Okay. If you scroll down, there's a nice little line chart down. Keep going.
Oh, it's all the way down.
Yeah, right there. Okay, so this is the percentage of engaged workers by the number of days that they are on site. So the number on the left, the first one is 0 days. If you're all fully remote, if you have a collaborative worker, they're about 40% engaged. That number goes up when it's 3 days in the office. So you see how that's sort of going up.
Yeah.
Your peak is around 2 days to 4 days. Interestingly, it goes down at 5 days. Like you see how much that. So if you're forcing someone to be in the office every day of the week, your engagement drops to 30%, to 30 to 31%. And that's, so it really does show you that the sweet spot is sort of in between, 2 days a week or 4 days a week. It starts to go down. Like that 3, I would just hit for that 3.
No, exactly. And I didn't know this article had this graph in it. I didn't go all the way down, but that makes sense. It's like, I mean, and this was true before the pandemic. Nobody liked going to work on a Monday.
Right.
Nobody liked going to work on a Friday. Friday is Friday.
Right.
Monday is Monday. We all hate them. So it's like, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 day. I believe that.
Garfield makes sense. Garfield the cat had a point about hating Mondays.
Right.
And loving lasagna. Although I don't like lasagna.
Really?
Or Mondays. So basically the article does give some advice, and basically it says that, commit to hybrid work for remote ready employees, but also establish standard on-site office days, for example, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because that will sort of maximize the engagement you're having. And then upskill your managers to hold one meaningful conversation per week with each employee about their goals, customers' well-being, and recognition. And I think that if you're going to do that, that should be that should be a face-to-face.
It should.
Yeah.
It should, yeah.
So,
yeah. I wholeheartedly agree.
So, like we said, we told you so. And this is, we've got proof from the Gallup organization. So thank you for writing that.
And it might be the case, too, that a lot of other institutions or people have been saying the same thing. I'd imagine like psychologists and people who study mental health and stuff like that probably have been saying the same thing. So it's good to see.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about this week?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, honestly, this whole week it's been more AI, ChatGPT. We do have who's going on trial. Well,
not the trial. It's the testifying before Congress.
Testifying before Congress.
We are recording this on Thursday, so we did not get to the TikTok CEO. That'll probably be on our next episode at some point. We're going to talk about that next week, because I want to dig through the testimony and see if kind of what we did with the Ticketmaster thing, and maybe pull up some interesting quotes.
Yeah, our next episode, we'll bring popcorn on. We'll kind of sit back, analyze what happened, see what makes sense, what doesn't. So it should be fun.
Just quickly, with TikTok, it's all about the data. It's not about the dances. It's about the data.
Oh, exactly.
Okay. All right. That's all the time we've got for today's episode. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, add any comments that you have below about what you liked and what you didn't like, and join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.